the March 25th was rescheduled to March 30th, and our government is not open on May 25th, Memorial Day, so that is moved to May 18th. So as stated, law requires that the schedule has to be published in news publication before December 31st. So this will be published in the next issue of the Pulaski County Journal. And also it's always posted in my office and on our website, and you can always get a copy from me also.
Okay. And then moving on to the data center moratorium. We had asked the commissioners for a 12-month moratorium, and we had received this letter back saying that they would like us to recommend a 6-month issuance moratorium, and all 3 commissioners signed that on November 17th. Am I not loud enough? And then, did you have anything else to add to that?
Yes, so the commissioners on November 17th had requested APC to consider a proposal of a 6-month moratorium on data centers, and they're recommending additions to the U.D.O for data centers to place a moratorium for 6 months on the issuance of permits to any persons, firms, or entities seeking to place, install, or construct a data center in Pulaski County. They had asked language to define a data center as a facility or portion of a facility housing networked computer systems and associated components such as telecommunications equipment and storage systems used for remote storage, processing, and distribution of data. Require a closed loop cooling system instead of water usage, and other considerations, which are items that the board has discussed in previous meetings in regards to setbacks, heights, generators, noise, buffers, equipment. And they asked that the moratorium be 6 months. So before this, I had spoken with APC's attorney in regards to creating language for a 12-month moratorium, and the response that the attorney had given, so I sent him some documents and he altered some things for the moratorium, and he there's a little concern that they're working on right now in regards to defining the size of a data center, because if you're aware, a phone company has data centers, larger businesses have a data center. So if there's no limit on the size, then you're also controlling businesses and them storing their in-house data. So the attorney is reviewing how to define large, like in regards to one of the attorney colleagues stated, for a definition, a physical facility that houses a large concentration of networked computer servers, storage systems, and networking equipment used by organizations for the storage, management, processing, and transmission of large amounts of digital data. So if you don't put a size limit on that, then you're essentially not allowing a bank to have a data storage facility. So they're getting more precise language for that, for the moratorium language, which the language reads, some of you may have a copy of it, and this is not something the board is voting on, but we're hoping to have our next meeting have the opportunity to be able to vote on it, where it reads, an ordinance amending the Pulaski County zoning ordinance to place a moratorium on data center for 12 months. Now, this is the one that was submitted to him prior to the commissioners. The commissioners recommend 6 months. You can also come back with 12 months if you choose. So the Board of Commissioners for Pulaski County, State of Indiana, has in place the Pulaski County, Indiana U.D.O Ordinance 2025-03, adopted on March 3 of 25 with an effective date of May 7th of 25. Since the passage of the most recent amendment of the zoning ordinance has received additional public input regarding data centers, and the Pulaski County Plan Commission is desirous of studying potential amendments to the zoning ordinance, specifically certain amendments to the portion of the zoning ordinance as it pertains to data centers and proper regulation, methodology, and the effects of data centers on Pulaski County, its residents, and first responders' ability to combat hazards with regards to data center. And whereas the commission believes that a moratorium for a period of 12 months on the issuance of permits to any person, firm, or entity seeking to place or install a data center on any property within the jurisdiction of the commission in Pulaski County, Indiana, will provide the commission and board with the opportunity to consider changes to the data center portion of the zoning ordinance. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners of Pulaski County, Indiana, that the following ordinance amending the Pulaski County zoning ordinance to place a moratorium on data centers for 12 months is hereby adopted as follows. The purpose of this ordinance and the moratorium issued hereby shall be to understand the prevalence and presence of data centers within the zoning jurisdiction of Pulaski County, the effects on residents and natural resources, and to conduct appropriate studies and to gauge whether data centers are appropriate within Pulaski County, and if so, the extent to which regulations should be developed and enforced. The county, by and through the appropriate regulatory authorities, desires to consider the implications of BESS on the following: property line setbacks, size tiers or cutoffs, lighting and noise, decommissioning plan alterations, decommissioning fund requirements, site plan requirements, resource impact mitigation requirements, and other safety requirements. So on section 2 definitions, for purpose of this ordinance, data center shall mean, and this is where we need clear language here for attorneys to verify. And then the moratorium would commence in section 3, commencing as of the date that the board chooses to, if they so choose to vote and recommend a data center moratorium. And the length of the moratorium set forth above may only be altered upon a majority vote of the commission at a public hearing. So your board now can decide if you would like a 12-month or 6-month moratorium, but not voting on it this evening, but for me to have documentation readily available for you reading 6 or 12 months.
Guys agree with other thoughts or? Yeah. Mike, thoughts?
I don't like moratorium.
Make sure you guys scoot your mics closer to you.
So what happens if one of the banks comes with needing us to enlarge theirs or, to add on? Does this moratorium stop all of that as well, or?
That's another question, but if I feel if a bank already has data storage now,
Nothing changes.
Nothing would change,
right?
Unless it would be a larger one. And I'm no expert, but I worked at a couple of banks and did IT in one, and it wasn't 5,000 square feet. It wasn't 3,000 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe if they already have data storage facility in their building, that this would potentially be exempt, but that's a question that I would ask the attorney to confirm that.
In section 3, under 3, say that
Release it early.
Well, it was the same with the battery storage.
I think that was kind of our thought the last time when we said 12, or unless it was finished earlier.
Yep.
But I'll say it out loud. I was surprised we had all three commissioners wanting us to reduce the time. I found that kind of interesting.
I don't think there's any way we'll get that done. 6 months. I don't think there's any way we'll get it done in a year. All back and forth with the lawyer. I don't see it happening.
Mm-hmm.
So I think at least a 12-month. Bet that ball back to them, they're just going to bat it back. So that's the hand tying that I don't like.
Yeah, it's not like we meet every month. We don't meet every other month.
Yeah.
Right. 12 months, definitely.
So we're not voting on that tonight anyways. We're just discussing language of it, right?
Correct. I just wanted to make sure I had documentation available for
Right.
you prior to your next meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm for the 12.
yeah.
No.
So it's just up for discussion then. So I think we, other than, I believe Mike would like it there not to be.
I still think we need to hire a company to do it.
All the spare change
Well,
instead of lawyer fees.
yeah.
Pay for that, Mike.
What's that?
Who will pay for that?
Taxpayers, I guess. Solar company, make them pay for it. I don't know, like, I just read this here, it's like they have, there's a decommissioning on, I think we're supposed to be, I guess we're talking about both, but a decommissioning on the data center. They, they don't have a decommissioning on any other building that they build. But I don't know how that works. I know there's up to 40 years those things could last. I was at a meeting the other day, they said they would give 40 years on them. So,
They can find.
but they haven't even wanted one here, so I don't even know if they want one here.
Yeah.
But like you said, a year, you give a year, needs to be done. I don't think 6 months because batteries are going to take a while. I mean, I'm not for moratoriums because I don't like the county being closed for business. But I can understand why you think a year. I think we need help.
We do. Been screaming 18 months.
Because we did zoning the first time, we had a company come in and they wanted to do it. And I can't remember how for sure it all went down, but it was, they gave us a template and stuff and helped us out. So it was a major job. And there's a lot of changes. People didn't like it. We changed a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff's going to change from now on. But you send it back to commissioners for a year. I don't know if they'll approve it. I'm not commissioner. So, but you can sure try it. I understand your point. I guess if she brings it in for a year, see what they do.
Well, again, we haven't voted on it yet, but how do we want it written up is what she's asking.
Well, it looks like
For future.
consensus.
I'll do
is
both. And then you can decide when you vote.
And I would like to check on like exemptions just for
Yes. Yep.
existing businesses.
Absolutely.
Okay. Anything else on communication on this? Okay. Moving on to the U.D.O. Old business, the U.D.O. section 278 text amendments. And Carla's going to lead us in that as well.
Okay, so this is the same document that you have just altered a bit here and there in certain spots. It's the same one we've had for 6 weeks, I believe. So as in the past, your current language of how the ordinance reads is on the left column. On the right column is potentially recommended language. Additions are bolded and items removed are strike through. There is some yellow highlights, and those are some items that have been added or open for discussion that the board has not received since their last copy. So what we have already read in our last 2 meetings, I'm going to say these in order. The first column, 7.1.A.2, no change except adding the word "at" or battery energy storage systems. And 7.1B, the intent of this ordinance, and the word chapter was changed to ordinance. This is taking away the word "and" for proper punctuation. And battery energy storage systems, BESS. Board, if you have any questions on any of these, just interrupt me before I go to the next section. 7.1C, applicability, again, changing the word chapter to ordinance, and then for grammar, adding and or BESS and CBESS. 7.1.D, notification requirements, applicability, adding a C for commercial solar energy system and adding BESS, also adding language to represent battery storage for and or store electricity. Under number 2, non-exempt CBESS. One thing that I know, the reason that this was changed, number 2, was to reflect what your rules of procedures read in regards to notifications. Rules of procedure read 45 to 60-day notification. However, there is a hearing process that would take place after that window. In this circumstance, for solar, there would not be a hearing process. And in regards to if a person in the public gets a notice, I feel that notice needs to be submitted sooner than 45 to 60 days from the time that a permit application is brought into the building department. And 30 days, I'm open to conversation if you would like to discuss even less than 30 days, because I believe it would be safe to assume that the developer already knows the neighboring properties of the parcel and they don't need 30 days to collect those names and addresses. I just feel it would give property owners more notice than by the time permit application review is complete. So if people come in during the process, they can discuss it with my office or any other departments that are responsible for the project. So 30 days or less, or you want to keep 45 to 60 days?
I like the 30, gives people more time.
Well, and you can probably answer this, how long does it take, because they're saying in the media. So how long does it take you to notify the public?
Well, honestly, there's nothing that really says I need to notify the public.
I'm just saying though, if we're telling them that they're allowed to use media, are they going to be able to do it within 30 days?
There's certification
There's time
notices.
constraint, is what I'm
Yes,
saying.
that will
Yeah.
have its stamp on them,
Okay.
yes. I'm sorry. Also, I'm reading a little further where it reads additional notification may be done by media, separate mailing, or through the public notice requirements prescribed. I'm wondering, would it be fair to require them to submit a notice into the newspaper as they have?
You're okay. So would that be the company has to notify through the paper, or they have to?
I would think whoever applies for the permit.
That's who has to, like, literally do it
Yeah,
themselves.
that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
There was some talk the other day at a meeting I was at about the newspapers and how it getting to be a cumbersome. Not liking it so much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
There's some legislation, I was at like a legislative review. They were talking about that was like part of the, going to be talked about this.
I wonder how else you would notify the public through a
I don't know.
Facebook page?
No,
Seems
I
like
wouldn't think so,
let
but
social media do it? That seems a
No.
little crazy.
so many of the papers are going out of business, little
Yeah,
communities.
I don't know how he does.
Yeah,
Notify.
that's what they were talking about, how
Mhm.
it's a major problem.
Huh. Well, she's got deep, that 30 days. Are you guys good with reducing the amount of time or that she has to get those notices out?
If it can be done in 30
30
days, I
days.
have no problem with 30 days.
Yeah,
Question is, can it be
done.
completed in 30 days
Right.
without being,
So is that pinching you in time at all, Carla? Or in Tina, to get those notices out in that 30-day limit?
Well, we don't send the notices.
Oh, they
It's
do.
their requirement. Yes.
Why do I think,
Okay, but
Or they
again,
just notice
that's
you.
my point. Okay, what does it take you if we're having a special meeting? I know you have to post so many days ahead of the meeting. So how much time do you need? And wouldn't that revert back to this? That we should allow that amount of time?
I'd like to see it 15 or 20.
Is that what you get?
We don't, oh, if for our meetings, well, we won't need for solar a special meeting for their permit. I'm so sorry.
I'm going to read for you, just hold tight. You wouldn't need that then. Yeah.
Did you want to leave it at 30 or?
Let's start out there,
Okay.
I think is what we decided. And then Mike had talked about newspapers and, you know, how it's getting trickier to get notifications out that way. Ours is alive and running right now, though.
Yeah, we're
so-
lucky,
Mhm, we're very lucky.
very lucky.
Yeah. Would you like me to, and then you can just add in? Yep. So we're at 7.1.f prohibition. So she has also scratched or to make it grammatically correct. Instead, it's just comma SES or BESS. And then 7.1.G1 at the bottom, after govern, we're going to add including any provisions or standards found elsewhere in this ordinance. And this is all about conflicts with other regulations. And then 7.1.H definitions, all definitions for WECS, comma, scratch and then SES, comma, and BESS are located within section 8 definition. So just grammatical. So far, so good. Okay. And then 7.2 general regulations under A location. 1 is non-commercial and micro WECS, SES, and BESS will be permitted. And then it looks like just a spelling correction to roofs, ROOFS. Any problems with those?
no,
No, okay. Good. And then we'll move to the next page, which 7.2.C.1, horizontal extension. The furthest horizontal extension of a WECS including guy wires, get rid of the word or, and SES then or BESS shall not extend into a required setback in the zoning district or a setback stipulated, by this section instead of the word chapter.
Excuse me. You did skip one though. Number 3 at the top of that page.
Oh, yep, right above that, it would
Right,
be
right.
number 3, so that it's got its own section now. No component of a battery cell racking system, container, or dedicated use building shall exceed 20 feet.
Right.
Thank you. And
So we
then
put that in height,
Yeah.
20 feet in height.
height,
General
Okay.
regulations. Height, yeah. That's what it sounded like. It went from
They're just
7
saying
to
height.
no
to,
to
yeah.
3.
Is, when we went up there to the NIPSCO, how tall were
Mhm.
those? Were they, and none of them were stacked, were they?
No,
No, they were all single.
not when we were out there.
Right. I didn't
Yeah.
think any of them were
Yeah,
stacked.
single.
Okay.
Yeah.
That should be okay then.
Okay. Let's see, did I do liability? A, the owner or operator of any WECS, CSES or BESS shall maintain a current general liability policy covering bodily injury and property damage and shall be required, not may be required, but shall be required. And then down to B. Yes.
If I can talk.
Oh, yes.
I mean, if I literally can't.
Right, you're doing.
Sorry. I do want to speak to a couple bond companies, insurance companies, in regards to these amounts in this language, just to verify the coverage for that, if you are all okay with that.
Oh, the liability insurance coverage.
Correct.
So that's where you got these numbers is what you're saying. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Good. Under the same section B, the applicant, owner and or operator of a WECS, get rid of or and then CSES or BESS shall defend, indemnify, hold harmless Pulaski County and its officials and agents has been added from and against any and all claims, demands, losses, suits, lawsuits has been added. And then at the bottom of that same paragraph, she's just added or BESS. And then 7.4.A, decommissioning plan, the plan outline. We now have number 1, a decommissioning plan shall include the.
Abby, can I clarify this area?
Yes.
Because that's a lot of text.
It is a lot of text.
Okay, so originally you'll see that 7.4A reads decommissioning plan outline, with the language that reads any WECS or CSES declared to be unsafe by the Pulaski County Plan Administrator, et cetera, is not a plan outline. So language, you will see that is in the 7.4A plan outline in the bold number 1 and 1A and B and C and C1. This language is moved from 7.4A1, 7.4.
Is that C? 7.4C.
Yes, so, yes, because if you'll see on page 5, so some of these sections, excuse me, it gets confusing because the language wasn't really set appropriately. Like I said, the way that language reads right now in the ordinance, that is not the description of a plan outline. And so, like you see on page 5, the column where that is crossed
At the very
out at the
bottom.
bottom, that is moved. Excuse me. So all that language from 7.4C1 content is moved to 7.4A decommissioning plan.
So the only word that was taken out was the
Is
word bond.
bond.
I'm just gonna say this right. So, and then we've created number 2.
2 stays, it's just going to be numbered differently.
Numbered differently.
And then with consistency, as we stated in our last meeting, wherever it reads plan administrator, it's altered to building inspector. Also, I want to note that wherever you see, excuse me, some areas it reads applicant, owner, developer, or owner, operator, developer. I feel for consistency that should read the same in each section. So it will say the same, but in the same order. I noticed in some sections, it's not in the same order, but just consistency.
So then it looks like the next section would be where she's highlighted this information is now in 2.3.R3.
And that will be further back.
Further
in your
down.
pages.
Yep. So we're just going to go ahead and move to page 6 then. And as you can see, that whole first half is moved to that other page. And so we're down to 7.4.B.
And it used to be D, but because we moved the plan up to where plan actually reads, that's why it changed that.
To B.
And also because we moved the one section to the application process.
Yeah. Guys all still with us? Yeah. Okay. So again, she's scratched out and we have CSES and BESS, so just clerical. And then we have also added in that same section or energy storage. So, so it shall be considered discontinued use after 1 year without energy production or energy storage after the project. Unless a plan is developed and submitted to the Pulaski County Building Department. Instead of department, we're putting inspector, and then clerical again with, so that or should be scratched. So between WCE, WECS, or should knows or, and then CSES or CBESS. And then we're gonna scratch out the Pulaski County Building Department, and instead we're using inspector. Same thing with the next note down. Page 7 at the very top, number 2, in the event of abandonment by the owner or operator, the applicant / owner / developer will provide an affidavit to the Pulaski County Building Inspector instead of department inspector. And then representing that all easements for wind turbines, solar arrays, or battery storage facilities. So just a scratch on or and adding battery. Everybody is still good? All right, 7.5 application procedures. A, permits, scratch and. So variances and special exceptions shall be applied and for and reviewed under this U.D.O. and the application procedures for a WECS, SES or BESS permit or special exception.
And the special exception language is added because in past conversation, you wanted BESS to be a special exception process.
Yep. Number 2 is okay, and number 3, it says see section 2.3S, permit applications for all battery energy storage systems. And that's been added into this section.
Yeah, so 2.3S would be the battery storage.
Section.
Yes.
Then we're moving on to 7.14.B.1, the perimeter buffer. And A, the fencing shall be a minimum of 150 distance from any ditch or in water banks and all participating parcel lines. So that's been an added section there. And then B,
Question.
go ahead.
Right before that, it said unless any state and federal agency guidelines. I'm not sure, shouldn't that state, Indiana state? State of Indiana, something to that effect? Because otherwise they could come back and they say, well, we can do it in Utah, and you said any state.
That's fine.
You know.
And why is the fencing 150 feet when the state says it's 75? And does that include a private ditch?
That, the way this reads, it would be any waterways. In speaking with the highway superintendent and surveyor, and just given the issues with setbacks so far that we have had, that feeling that to make it consistent. And Jenny, I'm sorry, my voice here, do either of you want to speak up on this portion?
Perimeter for the good of the ditch in general. Idea. Right now, I'm struggling to go out and for the fencing. It's fringed down. Stay at 75, so I feel that's a good idea. Gain some access for my point of view, especially maintain ditches, private ditches. You know, that's a gray area. County has that's future, if, you know, someone and have a fence that's 50. I will not be able to accept that. So that's kind of one of the biggest.
Okay, I can't agree with that one. That makes no sense to me.
As it reads now in the ordinance, for county maintained ditches, it's 75 feet and property lines are 150.
Well, last time I checked, the ditch was the person whose land it was on. You can shove it in if you want, without asking.
Anybody else? You want to add to anything with Mike?
I would.
When we talked to them people in the past, I don't think anybody ever argued about the distance, did they? The companies, they didn't make any point of that being a problem, an issue with them. Do you recall? I mean, I don't recall them ever.
I just think it's property, right? It's your property that you take your, now it's 150 feet. Well,
Like she says, though, if they're bringing in some kind of equipment to move around.
the state law is 75, so. Pardon?
Landowner won't make as much money if 150. If it's set back to 75, I mean, I think it's paid.
Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Schmicker, you have any thoughts?
I thought we had already voted on this at 150 feet.
On private ditches?
Yeah, Gary, with his comments said he wanted it across the board. It's going to be easier. Personally, I
And
didn't
why isn't
like,
it at 150 now? They changed it, right?
yeah, from 75.
So we
He
must
said
not
they were
have,
getting-
so we must not have voted on it yet.
Well, not for ditches and waterways. It's the setbacks are for the parcel lines, but it's 75 feet from ditch banks.
Yeah, we had discussion on it last
We did
meeting.
discuss that. For the majority of you did say
Yeah.
150 down the board, yes.
Because Gary was telling us about some of the trees, Mike, were so big. By the time they get 75, they'd be crushing whatever's on the other side of it. Is the comment that hit me the best of it.
Okay.
Gary, does that still hold true?
Well, the biggest thing is that you got all your roads and parcels, like that's 150. The way there's no differences, everything's. And it's a two-way street. There are private ditches out there. Ditches on roads and that. Especially 25 feet, 50, I talked to Arlen. Keep everything 150, that pretty close.
No confusion.
I totally understand the private ditches. The fringes on what they have. So, or whatever. I do agree with that. State also.
So is that going to supersede what we're trying to do here? If state law says 75?
Jenny, do you know?
I mean, we're leaning the other direction.
Because generally it's always been between federal, state, local, and town, it's whatever stricter, but this is,
I think that you. The law is just
yeah, if the state reads minimum of 75 feet, then that doesn't restrict you to raising that from 75.
Shall I keep going or?
The majority of you did.
Okay, let's see, the fencing shall not include barbed wire. And so scratch and add, scratch button, add, and be permeable for wildlife passage consistent with guidelines of state and federal wildlife agencies. And we've scratched alternative fencing can be used if the site is incorporating agrovoltaics and said fencing is approved by the plan administrator. So we've scratched that last sentence.
Why is that? You don't
Well,
want, you don't
like
want
we
sheep
just-
out there anymore?
Like we discussed in the last meeting, the building inspector is not a farmer to do the agrivoltaics and shouldn't be the one responsible to determine what fencing is appropriate. So if they need their perimeter fence. And so if this to me reads that they're allowing you to change the perimeter fence. Alternate fence can be used. So if you wanted to keep that language in, but read if there's for agriculture purpose fencing, but they would still need their perimeter fence. But then would you want the setbacks adjusted further? Because when I think of for the farming portion, they won't need a fence if they choose to farm in front of the fence and the tree screening. That would just be open. But if they're going to do the agrivoltaics with the sheep, it was my impression that they're gonna be in there with the panels,
Mhm.
not outside.
I agree.
That makes sense. We talked about that one last time.
Not really.
So are you saying then if I want sheep in there, then I have to put up my own sheep fencing?
The ones that I saw in Stark County and the sheep are in that fence, in the perimeter fence, under with the panels.
The type that we've approved for?
Yes, and then if they were to fence in, well, I don't believe that NEC would allow them to fence their panels in unless they have open areas inside that fence. Or if they have like a herding area, or I don't know how to maintain sheep, but
And really, whatever they do inside that fence is kind of, I
on
mean,
them.
on
because
them a
we've
little
said
bit.
Perimeter and.
Yeah.
Well, they probably want to know, like, if the fence has a 12 by 6 hole, you know, that fence, you see, may have a 12 by 6, maybe they want a 6 by 6 or a 3 by 2. Because if they have those little pigs out there, I've seen they have these little pigs now.
Oh, yeah.
So if they're having baby pigs, they don't want them going through them fences. You know how like horse fence has, so you can't put your hoof
Mhm.
through it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, they might want that kind of fence versus that big one where the goat sticks his head through and gets stuck. So, you know, you see those ones get their head stuck in there all the time, those goats with the horns.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Maybe they just have to put up the fence that's appropriate for
I
the
know,
animal.
but it looks like we're not letting them, right?
They can do what they want on the other side of that fence.
Then they have to build 2 fences. That's just more cost, more,
Yeah.
it just makes no sense to me. I mean, we're just making everything harder,
We're good at that.
costing more money.
Alternative fencing can be used. What if you did something, because it is hard. I mean, how are you going to know what the
Right.
pigs need versus that it has to be this strong or better kind of, oh, I don't know.
If you want to keep alternative fencing language in here, just
Mhm.
have it approved by the building inspector together with a third-party firm. And then that would just be, the cost would be
On
absorbed
them.
by the developer.
That sounds good.
You guys good with that? That's a good option.
If they want the horse fence, you know, that's gonna cost a lot more, but why should you have to build the other fence and the horse fence? To me,
No, I hear you.
So approved by the building inspector together with a third-party firm, third-party company. Oh,
Expert.
yeah, sure.
Okay, off we go. See, whoop. No, you're good.
Third party.
Oh, mm-hmm.
yeah, let them pay for the third
Like
party.
we did.
Yep. Yeah, they should. They should.
Okay, and reimbursed by developer, okay.
Yep. Okay, good. Good brainstorming there. C, fencing shall be visibly shown on site plans on, let's see, sorry, try it. Fencing shall be visibly shown on site plans listing appropriate setbacks and gate locations. 7.14.B.3 perimeter buffer landscaping. So a couple changes here. The planting of landscaping evergreens along the perimeter of the CSES shall be required on the outside of the perimeter fencing, scratch along and add closest to the solar panels. And then we're going to scratch and fencing for CSES. And instead, we're just going to go right to and where facing all habitable dwellings fit for human occupation on non-participating properties within a half mile of a CSES, and then landscaping shall not be seeded or planted closer than 30 foot from the center of the road. And then we're going to scratch about halfway down. So let's see, I'll just read that. The landscape buffer shall be designed by a horticulturalist with the goal of balancing ecological environmental practices with the desire to maintain compatibility with the existing scratch rule. And then landscaping and shall be consistent with prudent ecological design considerations to scratch code include any trees, shrubs, berms or related is all scratched, and so include landscaping designed to create a natural looking semi-opaque area. Then we're going to scratch, i.e. the buffer will not be required to block the view of the project completely, but sustainable enough to meet the plan administrator's approval. So we're going to scratch that section. And then that prevents direct visual line of sight between the developed area and neighboring properties, public areas and roadways. So we're just a little grammar there with getting rid of and or and the. Evergreens must be at least 6 foot tall. And we're getting rid of on average. And then by the beginning of on-site energy production. And then we're going to scratch any additional vegetation planted used along with the evergreens to supplement or in lieu of evergreen trees must be of sufficiently similar maturity to meet standards herein. And then all landscaping must meet the, get rid of plan administrators and just putting building inspectors, standards of approval who, and get rid of the administrator, may require owner, operator, developer to upgrade installed vegetation screening to satisfy such standards.
So I'd like to discuss a bit about some of the language adjustments that are being recommended for you to consider. We have had conversation with Doral for several weeks now in regards to potential landscape screening. When we were given a landscape plan that was approved, the plan was a cartoon drawn design showing flowers, showing grasses that looked about this tall, to come to find that they're telling us that they'll be planting 5 feet from the shoulder of the road, native grasses that can be up to 7 feet tall. You all know our deer population in Pulaski County, knowing that you could have 7 foot tall grasses 5 feet from the shoulder of the road, and then you have a fence 150 feet back, and the animals have that margin of area, 7 foot grasses taller than some of the deer, a safety hazard for driving for pedestrians. There was a group of us that had gone and went with a couple people from working the Doral project into another county. And we looked at their landscaping screening, and speaking as a tax-paying resident in Pulaski County who drives these roads frequently, multiple different vehicles, it looked horrible. It was not, you can tell if any of you have tried to grow grasses in a pasture, you know the work that has to get put into maintaining your proper landscaping, and weeds will, you go away for a week, well, think of your garden, what happened. You go away for a week and you have more weeds than vegetables. And that looks like that's what happened. Now, I will give credit to them in the fact that it obviously is November, so of course, most of it was dead, but because I am one of those people whose garden is full of weeds, I saw many weeds in that section. It didn't look clean and it didn't look safe. So there's a bulk of us, and I'm pointing over here because Gary and Dave were two that had gone with, Commissioner Kniebel had gone with, VS had gone, and then we had a meeting a couple days later, and it was the majority of, well, I think everybody in that meeting that represented Pulaski County had agreed that we are unhappy with the thought of leaving the native grasses and having the shrubs and bushes. And if they were to just do the evergreen rows closer to the fence and just do 2, maybe 3 rows of evergreens, then they can do the agrivoltaics between the trees and the road, and they can forego the native grass seeding and shrubs and bushes. So that's why a lot of the language has been removed, like I said, in this section, based on things in the meeting that Commissioner Street, Commissioner Kniebel, Highway Super, and Surveyor, myself, had all stated that it is a safety hazard and it does not look attractive either. Yes.
I thought we had asked for a row of evergreens.
Yes, so that is included in their landscape plan now, but now we're just saying just forego the grasses and the shrubs and bushes. So the shrubs and bushes are there to fill in the space for when your evergreens grow, but then also they have a more dense screening for certain areas that maybe a home, it's only on one side for further down kind of thing. So they have different types of screening. So if we just said down the board for all your screening, just do the evergreens, and that seemed cleaner and safer.
I understand what you're saying, but now you're asking them to do 3 rows?
Well, I had just mentioned that, but technically it's 2 rows right now.
And I understand about the tall grass,
Yeah,
but we're farmers and we have 7-foot corn. And we're the same on the edge of the road. But I do understand what you're saying about the tall grass, it stays there year round.
right. And the corn is not there year round, right?
I understand.
Gary, Dave, do either of you want to interject anything?
Well, the big thing is, go for a drive and look. I tried myself in Pulaski County, I driving ways, that's can't, because we got a lot here. We drove up and looked at theirs, and they had, where they had mowed with their 5-foot roadside mower to do the right of way, from there on out off the road was where their grasses and trees were kind of, that's what he said. Now, I've seen the ones up by Sam Pier, and I've seen the ones up at Clemens Bridge, and a lot of their screenings are next to the fence. And then there's a lot of places that are next to the fence, and then there's places that farmers have planted. And what we looked at is like, and this is good, we got enough deer accidents and stuff like that, we don't need 10 foot of tall grass. We won't get into the road. We're constantly trying to mow the trees along the edge of the road, where we got a lot of trees. Not this year, I mean, I would recommend, I hate to put Dave and I, Carla, Jenny, the Commissioner Kniebel in, and just to look right.
Where was this at?
Stark County.
Stark County.
Durrell's or
Yeah,
Dunsbridge?
no, it was Doral, yes. Yeah, no, we were west of that, southwest. Not in a couple months.
They've got some of the fences covered that they put up, and that really helps. It's a fence, it's like black fence, and it's a lot better than that tip of grass, I can tell you that.
So that is something that we did discuss too, but then the concern would be, would it stay maintained? Problem because of the material that it's made of and wind.
It's got like holes in it. with bulls.
Yeah,
It's like that up on wheat field. He's talking there.
Baker Heights has some of their fence too.
yeah,
I think they have chain link, but they might run a strips in.
yes, yep. Well, if that's something your board wants to consider to recommend also.
With one of the winds, it knocked all those, and it took them a while to put them all back in, the strips. Just saying.
No, I'm not advocating, I'm just saying.
Yeah, there are other options.
Oh, yeah. Something natural like a tree.
I like trees. No trees. You guys good with those changes? I think anytime it's a safety issue, I mean, that has to be a first concern with any of our choices, so. Okay. That moves us down to more landscaping chat. So all the way down at the bottom of the page at B, landscape buffering shall be maintained and dead growth shall be removed and replaced by owner operator. And then we're gonna scratch the rest of that. We're gonna scratch so that it shall continue its purpose to serve as a screen as described herein. This shall include the removal of dead trees, plants, replanting of new trees, plants, and to maintain the natural healthy appearance of buffered screened area. So they're just saying a little simpler, remove and replace. So the next sentence down, we're just scratching planned administrator and putting building inspector. And then we'll provide an online grievance form for the public to report concerns regarding landscape buffering. So we're gonna get rid of the quality or quantity of the project. I think that would be smart. The form will require users to include the exact location and description of any alleged defect or deficiency. The project developer operator will be required to review each complaint with the building inspector and work with the building inspector to improve any deficit or defects or deficiency to the inspector's satisfaction in a prompt and timely manner. So we scratched a couple grammar issues there. So instead of administrator, we keep using building inspector. And then we'll move on to lighting, if you guys are all good with that. Good. So lighting, all we're doing is scratching sustainability. So it'll read, so that no direct light extends beyond the CSES facility. 7.14D, we're gonna scratch warnings and safety, and we'll have signage, and we're gonna move from move that from 7.15.c.
yeah, where the asterisk is, that's what's moved from 715C.
So we'll pull that in, and it's all the way to permitted below, and then she's going to take out, or we're going to take out, in the event that one of the following regulations or standard conflicts with another sign regulation or standard prescribed by this ordinance, the most restrictive regulation shall apply. And it says this was moved to 7.1.c to reflect all the section 7. So it's not like it's getting shut out. She just has moved that, correct?
Right.
Okay. Oh, mine's gone from green to red.
I can hear Carl, or I can hear Carl.
Is it red? Yeah, mine's turned red. Let me see if I can use, his is red as well.
I can hear you tap that.
Can you?
Here.
Gosh, I feel like I'm a loud talker too. Check. Can you, no?
Move closer to your face.
I feel like, check. Can you hear that?
I can do that.
Okay. Okay. Moving down to 7.14.H.3, planting within the scratch 75 feet. And of course, we're changing that to the 150-foot setback to any ditch. And then we're scratching 150 for property line ditches. And then shall comply with the USDA Farm Services Agency guidelines for appropriate plantings for filter strips. And then down to the well and septic. Everything reads the same, but we'll be taking out the plan administrator will take into consideration prohibitive costs, site limitations, and industry standards in making his or her determination. And then we're adding in, if adjustments beyond NEC or industry standards are required or requested by the developer, building inspector reserves the right to hire a third-party engineer or legal consultant to verify code compliance. On page 11, let's see. Sure. Any cost by the county shall be reimbursed at the owner, operator, developer expense. And then under 7.15.C signage, repeal and move most language to 7.14D new section signage to combine with all other sign language. So we're just cleaning that up, it looks like. 7.17, this is all about commercial SES setbacks. And we're taking out any CSES component, including the CSES site fencing to either side of an internal ditch 75 feet. Any CSES component, including the CSES, get rid of site, and just perimeter fencing to either side of any ditch, a non-participating / non-included property line, or any right-of-way 150 feet. And then there is a question here. It says established residential driveways. Carla.
That was still language from when the first time we discussed this, and there is language further into this in regards to like where their gate locations is or would be placed, how we had discussed how they've had driveways across the road from people's driveways.
Okay. Down to 7.18.A, move to sections 2.3.R.3, applications for commercial SES, and in parentheses, CSES. A culvert study, 90 days prior to the start of ground movement, the owner operator shall conduct a culvert study to include photographs, video, or a combination thereof, and a written agreement to document the condition. The highway superintendent shall have 20 business days to respond to the study. And then there's a move to 2.3.R.1, R.3.1,
Which that's I, and that number 4 is what got moved.
Yep, number 4 got, so it's moved.
Yes.
So we won't go over that.
Shouldn't the culvert study be in the road use agreement?
So the plan is to try and move all the road use, management into the ordinance. So, but this was already in this section. And if we continue to have a road use, it would also be in the road use agreement too. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. To check on it, makes sense to me.
Okay, and then page 14. The top section looks like everything's okay. And then the letter A, site layout plan. And then we're scratching drawn to a scale that allows the plan administrator to reasonably ascertain the size and scope of the project in relation to the surrounding area. The plan should. So that's all scratched. And so instead it's going to read a site layout plan to include, but not limited to. And we're just scratching the following information. So, but not limited to number 1, scratch out general, and it's just location, acreage, and state parcel identification numbers on the subject property or properties. Number 2, location. Is that scratched out, Carla?
It is. I don't know why there was a dash between the two. So
Oh,
it's
I
just
see.
location key showing north arrow.
And number 3 is the location of substations.
Substations. 4 didn't change, 5 didn't change.
And then 6 is existing wetlands and floodplains. Number 8, existing and proposed site ingress and egress displaying numbered gate entrances. And then number 10 will read map scales, size appropriate to read setback measurements without magnification. B, landscape screening plan to include requirements as prescribed in section 7.14.B. C, dated signatures of applicant, CSCS operator, and property owner or owners. Property owner or owner's signatures must be assigned addendum to the application or dated signature page of landowner contract with the applicant, CSCS operator, CSCS developer. So we've scratched out submitted in the form there. Decommissioning plans signed and executed by Pulaski County Commissioners as prescribed in section 7.4 of this ordinance. Economic Development Agreement, EDA.
So there's been some discussion on this language. And from the Economic Development Director, and Abby, I can read this because there's a portion in there that should get put back in. An EDA shall be required prior to building permit issuance. The EDA shall be developed in conjunction with the Pulaski County Economic Development Director as amended, the County Council, and then add County Board of Commissioners. Because consistently the board is signing off on most of the documents submitted for these projects. And Pulaski County's attorney prior to building permit issuance. The EDA must be executed by both the council and the Board of Commissioners. Pulaski County reserves the right to employ outside fiscal and or legal consultants to assist in developing the EDA. And during the process of considering any tax abatement that may be requested, the applicant owner shall be expected to execute reimbursement agreements with the county's Economic Development Office as amended, and to reimburse the county for any consultant costs incurred, including fees charged by the county's attorney for their role in the process. The EDA shall address property tax abatements if requested, economic development payments to be made to the county, and the distribution thereof, and any other related issues as deemed to be necessary or appropriate. The applicant owner may withhold building permit payment and any payment guaranteed by the EDA until the Pulaski County Council has noticed and conducted a public hearing pertaining to tax abatement incentives and adopted the resolutions required awarding such incentives. And then the drainage agreement, number one still reads the same as what was in when it was 7.18, or when it, as it reads presently in our ordinance, 7.18, number one is still in what our ordinance reads. The yellow that you see is working with the surveyor, where reading detailed drainage plan must show a 150-foot setbacks, detailed site plan which shows drainage features, regulated drains with names, private drains with names, wetlands, floodplains, and must show location of all drains and tiles. Number 4, drainage plans must state and show a comprehensive stormwater management plan. Number 5, drainage plan must state and show erosion and sediment control plans to manage runoff and prevent soil loss. Number 6, drainage plan must be presented to the Pulaski County Drainage Board for approval at any time changes are made. 7, underground cables will be bored under open ditches with a minimum of 5 feet below a ditch bottom. 8, culvert repairs completed prior to start of construction with a mandatory inspection with county after project completion, and replace any if necessary. Maintenance ditches located in project areas to be cleaned prior to start of construction. This requires the ditch to be dredged and brushed. 10, private tiles that outlet into a maintenance ditch must be repaired prior to start of construction to prevent further damage to the ditch. 11, washouts along any ditch need to be repaired prior to the beginning of construction. 12, repair any damage to any drainage ditch or tile from construction, installation, or maintenance. 13, section corners. Preserve all section corners during the lifetime of project. Section corners must be witnessed and verified prior to start of construction and post-construction with detailed documentation given to the Pulaski County Surveyor. 14, all ditches shall be maintained during construction and during the life of the project, including but not limited to washout, slides, cleaning, tree brush removal, and spraying. 15, upon completion of the project, owner, operator, developer is to provide Pulaski County Surveyor with GPS coordinates for tile locations located throughout the project. 16, Pulaski County shall not be held responsible for any damage to any driveways, filter strip, fence, etc., while performing maintenance work on ditches, tiles. Do you want to add anything, Jenny? Or any? Road use and maintenance agreement, number 1 is language that is presently in our ordinance. Number 2, a road use map shall be submitted with the CSES permit application. The highway superintendent will have 30 days from date received to respond. The road use may be altered only with approval from the developer, owner, operator, together with the highway superintendent throughout the construction period. Number 3, roads made part of the road use map will be stabilized prior to the start of ground movement. Number 4, all roads and intersections made part of the road use are to be widened where feasible to a minimum of 20 feet prior to the start of construction. And this would be an add to this at developer expense. Developer's expense.
Gary, how are you doing on those? Did I get it wrong?
Be honest with you, the commissioners hired ES as a representative between the solar farm county, and from that point on, they hired their town on-site road improvement company or repair company. And I feel that they have done a fabulous job. Just have to keep up on all of it. I know there's a couple of roads that are trying to stabilize. But it all depends on what road it is as far as gravel, if you had the blacktop road ground stabilized. Our roads are holding up. There's some repairs that they're working, they're doing. Repairs. People that's, anyone that's driven them, I feel that our roads are held up very well. They have many upgrades.
Number 5, all roads are to be maintained and repaired in a time frame set by the Pulaski County Highway Superintendent throughout CSES project construction by owner, operator, developer. If any costs of maintenance and repair incurred by the county owner, operator, developer will reimburse the county. 6, at the end of CSES construction, owner, operator, developer shall replace all roads that were part of the road use of the CSES project at developer's expense. I've added at developer's expense. And this is something for conversation based on stabilization. Number 7, gravel roads to be brought up to chip seal / hot mix roads.
Meaning we're gonna try and make that big blacktop asphalt road. Every gravel road.
That is part of the project that was used for the solar project.
So 500 west, north of 14 is a gravel road now.
Look at Gary. Look at Gary. And talk to Gary.
You're gonna require them to make that an asphalt.
That's not in our road use agreement now, right? We don't set up there that it says all the roads need to be blacktop. You know, there's some north that lived on a gravel road the whole time configuration of the project, and it needed the project for gravel roads so it's blacktop. And I don't like people that live on gravel roads. I'm not saying that this is going to happen. I'm hoping it could, but I'm not sure it will. If this gets changed, we're going to up in the company. I would like to see that required. Turn the gravel roads that they can live on to upgrade it to, I'm not gonna say top of the line hot mix, but you can get it done cheaper for an upgrade versus the gravel.
So is this something Pulaski County has implemented or other counties are also requiring that?
Why I think that the counties that already had done.
They did.
That's for discussion, and that can also, like Mike said, this is going to be something that's proceeding, and it's already started. All the other agreements back in 2021 or 2022.
I did say you had road stabilization, and that was the biggest complaint I heard in White and Stark County, is those people had to drive on a gravel road, and they would just soon drove on their, tore up road and then get a new road at the end.
Right, that's.
But if, like you said, you had some, that's good because you got, you guys had to do some stabilization already. Right, so, that's how it happened. That was the biggest complaint I heard everywhere I ever been. Is they don't like driving down that gravel road, so they lived on a paved road. Then they got a new road, so now they're really happy.
That's where I said on the maintenance of what's going on here at Pulaski.
Yeah, but you're just putting it in the U.D.O. instead of the road use agreement. Okay.
Kind of like it. Makes them leave it better than they found it, which is a good neighbor, right?
H, emergency response plan for the construction and operation of the facility consistent with industry standards. Plan shall include but not be limited to the following: description of potential fire and emergency scenarios that may require response from emergency service personnel. 2, emergency procedures to follow in case of fire, explosion, or other potentially dangerous conditions. 3, site plan to include public and private water sources and fire hydrants on site, which can be accessed for fire suppression. Description of site access for fire emergency responders. Description of hazardous material signage plan. 6, 24-hour contact information for owner, operator, and at least 3 whoops, that was cut from the solar, so CSES representatives instead of the battery storage. We've been editing back and forth on both ordinances. Also wanted to add something, but wasn't sure about the language in regards to training for emergency response personnel. So that would be 7, training. And I have reached out to persons such as for EMA, how I would like for us to get information from EMA, EMS. I've talked to the sheriff a little bit on this. Just anybody that would be involved in any emergency scenarios, fire departments, on what would be beneficial to them in what type of training, equipment that maybe number 8 could be supply with adequate protection gear. I just don't know how to word that, and I was hoping that that information could be gathered from those emergency response personnel.
I thought we put that burden on them, they did that at the beginning.
Yes.
Okay. So then we asked if we could meet with the representatives from the fire department. Have you had any word on that?
Yeah, we're trying to coordinate dates with everybody because most of them have daytime jobs, so it's gonna most likely have to be an evening. And then I is the same language that was already in section 718. J is still in our ordinance. Any other information or item reasonably requested changing to building inspector, and proposed was spelled wrong, so that's clerical. So construction requirements. I have reached out to the government personnel that have been involved during the construction project and asked them to offer me some insight in what they felt may be beneficial here in this during construction requirements. A is language, obviously you can see that still there, added, and assess weekly and include a maintenance report submitted to building inspector and compliance monitoring firm. And then the dust, noise, and light control, change building department to inspector. Number 2 hasn't changed. 3 was actually in the road use management section of 718, so that got moved to during the construction requirements. Number 4, I was hoping to gain some insight, as you can see. Traffic control, in regards to, I was hoping that Gary could be one of the people to help interject in regards to them having flaggers, them, and then obviously signs. You wanna,
Traffic control right now. 1,200 workers going along. 2 spots is a lot of traffic. Biggest thing would be a destination point for all their incoming delivery loads. Spots to park for delivery trucks or delivery. It's just traffic in general. Cars coming out, lots and lots of cars. That's big issue.
the sheriff did make a comment that there were too many parking lots. They're spread out too far. There's too many areas with literally hundreds of cars. And 2 miles down, you have another parking area of hundreds of cars. Was a concern in regards to them being staffed. I think today he said they had 4 or 5 extra on duty in that area. There's been a concern with erratic driving from workers in the morning and after hours. I don't know how you can really control that, and we're obviously not used to 1,400 cars on a 6-mile road. So,
When it didn't work, it's like high school getting off the phone.
and it was already discussed if somebody had brought up if they could stagger their work schedules, and that wasn't feasible. They did, when this discussion was brought up before, that's when they started to bring out the white vans, if you've seen the white vans, and so limited some driving for them. What's that?
They say ice on it.
Mhm. So, and then traffic control, I'm just looking for more language that would seem reasonable and protecting the county, and then the same with signage. We have noticed a lack of appropriate signage in areas unless we've said something to them, and then the signs will come up. But if we have this in the ordinance now, then we don't have to worry about it. For example, trucks coming off and onto the highway, or if we know their main route that they'll be using when they are coming into work or leaving work, they could have signs just to let people know, you've been to sporting events and concerts where they have signs out letting people know there's going to be extra traffic than what you're used to. So if at those intersections, we have something like that just to prepare drivers on the highway coming past, as well as county intersections. Anybody wanted to interject on that?
I don't know how you would do that.
I don't either. That's why it's blank.
I drove around a couple of these, and they do have the stop signs with the flashing.
Yes.
That does, I think, probably help. And then they have the whirly gig on top of it.
Mhm.
With the reflector. That could help.
Slow down, that's it.
I would like to, If you could go to page 14, 2.3 R3, application for commercial SES. So I would request you to consider something along the lines of it. So we have number 8, existing and proposed site ingress and egress displaying numbered gate entrances. Something to the effect of they need to be reviewed and approved by the building inspector and highway superintendent. And I would like to have the language to state that they cannot have them across from any current residential drives. I think we discussed that on battery storage, and I feel that this is my fault. I did not add it into the solar portion. So if if the language reads well from what we did in BESS, then I will place that in here. But are you acceptable, are you accepting of what I had just said, that it needs to be approved? Because I'm fairly certain that's about what we had said before, that the highway super and building inspector, and that they can't have driveways across from residential driveways.
Best idea ever.
And if there's even anything further that you'd like to read or state, such as, I don't know how in detail we could go in this in regards to a distance from a residential driveway. If you wanted to recommend the ingress and egress, if you wanted to be consistent with the setbacks of 150 feet. Or no, I was gonna say then that puts too much burden on Gary and myself.
When they're arriving at work, I mean, is there a line like
That,
to pull?
yeah, there's literally a line of, for a half a mile.
Right, so I just wonder, I mean, is 150 feet even enough room for someone to get out? And
Well, they're talking, I think, the individual yards, not the, or the panels are,
Right.
not like the laydown yard. I think they're talking about
J- Well-
14 or whatever,
yeah,
15. You're talking those, right?
So, well, what I'm saying right now for number 8 is when they have the access to each solar section, there are a few that they've placed directly across the road from somebody's driveway. So trying to alleviate that completely.
yeah, I was just asking.
But
if 150
I get what you're saying. You could,
Like a lot, but-
Don't you think like every situation could be different?
well, and it could,
150 is not very much.
the,
Say you own an acre, you know, and it's so far, you know, why do they have to put that even by your acre? You know, they have a mile, and you only have 300 feet, you know, way.
if there's a way that you could have it read that they can't put a drive anywhere near a residential driveway. But I don't know how you could do that. So that's why I said I don't want to put the burden on Gary and me.
It needs to be also intersections.
Yes, yes,
If Gary's gonna be in on that,
yes.
then that should solve your problem. He's gonna,
And that all needs to be on their initial plan to get the car.
Right.
Because there's been some results on this one. It's private, right, bottom of the hill.
Yeah.
Like, what's something to post to the intersection. some that have not been met as long as I.
I get that.
A lot of them get put in, it's where it takes the least amount of. Getting it to drop. Or site ditches.
And existing drives, they've used a lot of those to access farms. So if you are all accepting of language reading what we had discussed for the BESS approved by the building inspector and highway superintendent to include driveways as well as intersections, do you want to say residential driveways or any driveways? All driveways, all non-participating property owner driveways. Okay, and some discussion has been brought up in regards to, so for the setbacks for 150 feet, it has been, information has been given to me and I've seen in other ordinances where, so the discussion of the setbacks, they have also chosen to put the setback further around a residential structure that's not participating. They've also gone as far as limiting it to only two sides, or what I've only seen the two side one. I did not put anything in here for that discussion, but I felt that I needed to share that information with you if that's something that you wanted to discuss to, if you wanted to potentially consider altering the 150 setback to saying it could be further back from residential structures of non-participating. Well, property lines, so we wouldn't be on people's properties measuring from corner of their house, and then is it the awning, is it the, foundation?
My least favorite thing are arbitrary number. I mean, do we have any information from other counties where it's a little more effective? Like in feet?
Like you just, it's in other ordinances. It is in other ordinances
Right.
higher.
Like how high?
Oh, how high? Oh, I think
How far?
right. Off the top of my head, I do not know. And then you'd need to consider though, ditches and waterways too. And then if you're going to consider extending that, then is it fair to property owners, like with a private ditch? Are you going to say, I have a ditch through my property and I want solar panels and it's not county maintained? Are you still going to make me have a 300-foot setback from my waterway on my property that you're not maintaining? Well, right, well, I'm saying, are you going to, if you want to extend the setback, are you going to make it for everything? Well, right, and I was also saying, if you're just gonna make that 150 be a consistent number, like you did for the,
We're
or
gonna squeeze 3/4 of the farm for the new developer. And the existing developers don't have to worry about that.
right.
So I think that would be excessive to move everything out to that amount of land. That's a lot of land.
Yeah, I agree. That's why that's why I brought up that about like a private ditch, that you don't maintain it, so would you make my setback further, is where I was going with that.
I understand the code. I do. Make it more farther away. But for everything, I would disagree with that. We just go to the 150 to make it consistent,
Right.
and now we've already changed that language for possible.
Well, it's information that was brought to me, and I feel it's my responsibility to share everything that people have brought to me to your board, regardless of what you choose to do. I need to do my due diligence. I don't, I know that we've put a chart, Tina and I have put a chart together, but I just don't have it handy. And like I said, since I just threw that information out, I'm not prepared for it.
Any bigger grid?
I've
Any
s-
other counties have a setback, or do you know?
Yes, Putnam County just put in 500-foot setback, and they cannot be on more than two sides of the property, not two state property.
I think you consider 500.
So I don't understand. It's saying 150. But I understand. There's extra properties.
Yes. This would be a setback in residential property. Like where I live, that 500 feet off the property.
What if you own 600 acres? Still 500 feet. So you just your house lot.
I guess I'm thinking.
From a property line, non-participating property line.
That's it, so.
House, yeah.
I just don't have anything about battery storage or that.
Was that something you just want to discuss?
Information on some other areas?
Yeah, I'll email you. I'll email you what other counties are doing. And in regards to landscape screening, I've had some property owners submit some photos, and I apologize, I do not have the landscapes, the vegetation that we had gone out and seen, even though he sent me the photos and I took photos too. I didn't get them transferred onto this, but here are a couple photos of some, so the silt fence isn't always necessarily set at 150 feet, and that's a stormwater management practice. So that does not reflect 150 feet. In fact, it is less than 150 feet. I believe this here is, I think this is just a little bit over 150 feet. I have measurements for this property I have done some time ago. So you can see what 150 feet is in their backyard. And these are not photos that I have taken, just so you know. Now, but also keep in mind that the screening has not been put in place yet in some of these, however, this one, I'm not even sure about the fencing and I do not even know.
550. Just west of 39, to the north of our property. East of the northeast corner of our property. Looking from our front porch.
I was gonna ask about, because I had seen a couple things, like with the noise. Didn't we set it at a certain decibel? Have we measured that in the areas that folks are?
I personally have not, but I can reach out for that.
Well, I didn't know if, like, if someone came to your office, would that be something, like, who would we refer them to even? I just wasn't sure.
What's in the complaint?
Oh, there.
No, that's for landscaping, but I take all complaints. I take all complaints.
Have you had anyone come to you about the noise to your office?
No
that-
one's specifically come in and said exclusively it's the noise, but they've said there is noise. And it's something that I can look into in regards to how that process would work.
Yeah, I've seen the posts and that kind of does upset me a little, because I know that was a big deal for, for what, when we had made the ordinance, that we were concerned about that.
7 to 7.
7 to 7, yeah. We got it, thank you. You can shut that off.
Is it annoying?
Because it's not time for public comment yet. I appreciate it, but that's why I brought it up, because I also felt like it was a problem. So thank you for shutting it off.
Speaking of noise, did you ever get a hold of the outfit to find out?
Yep, I had sent you guys a late email saying that, yeah, I am, well, it was late, so. Yeah, no, it was after 4 o'clock sometime, so I knew most of you guys wouldn't see it, but that's why I think I texted saying I was gonna send you an email that maybe I said that, or I was going to, anyway.
So do we have anything else to add to this? She's gonna check on the setbacks, like in the area, anything else? Recommendations, yep. I would like to table the battery storage text amendments, just like for our brain power for this evening. Anyone opposed to that? Okay. We have no other business, so we can move on to public comment. Did we have a sign up for that or anything this evening, or?
I guess we can just go by
By the list?
sign up sheet, yeah.
Okay. And is it, I forget how many minutes, 2, 3,
3.
3.
I can time it.
Thank you. Okay, any public comments?
You guys were talking about how far away from people or things.
Hold
I
on
think-
1 second.
yeah.
Do you, if you want to come up here and use, well, don't use this mic. I've been coughing in that one. And then your name and your residence.
My name is Bob Harder from Richville, and I don't, you said like 150 feet or whatever, you were talking about that. Imagine this next to your house, and tell me how far you want it away. That's what you need to think about.
Well, I get it.
I mean,
I lived with this for how many years, few months? Every day.
I mean, and that's the biggest thing. And like you were talking about the stop signs and stuff, I mean, yeah, they're neat, they don't work if the sun don't shine, so it doesn't, that is terrible. They don't stop for that, that doesn't mean nothing. If you come up to a stop sign with one of them guys, you better stop first, because if he's even if you're sitting there, you better wait, make sure he's gonna stop. It's just common sense, I mean, they don't really care. I don't know how they get anything done as much as they run up and down the road. Constantly on the road, there's somebody on the road all the time. And there's truck or one of their little side by sides or whatever, running up and down the road. I mean, they just made our life terrible. I mean, you live in town, you don't know it. Hasn't seen it or hasn't been out there, they don't really realize what's happening. When it happens, it gets closer to them, then they'll realize what's happening. We've lived in that house for over 35 years and never thought nothing like this would happen. This happened. And it's a shame. I mean, you just watch the property just stumble right in front of you. I mean, that's what it's doing. It seems like nobody wants to listen to what's really going on. I mean, we're just destroying our whole county. People, they're selling their stuff and moving out because they're tired. They don't want it. I mean, I don't know how much better to make that. It's everybody that's around it don't want to be around. And the people most of the people that own it are not around it either. I mean, a lot of them don't even live here now. But they got it. They got the ground. How they got it doesn't matter. But they still got it. I mean, they just ruin everybody else's that lives on it. That's all I want to say. I mean, don't think it's not easy anymore. I mean, and it got the whole county. People don't speak like they used to. In fact, people went to high school together, don't even talk to each other no more. You know, how much later you can pack it. It's really got the whole county upset. And it just keeps bringing more and more and more in. I mean, where does it stop? That's the thing. We're taking all of our food away from us. That's what's going to happen. And we're going to depend on a foreign country for our food? No.
I live at 5048 West.
What's your name, sir?
I'd
Mm-hmm.
like to show you all a map. So we live within this yellow circle here. These red squares are current and future solar projects.
That one I'm at? Oh, okay.
So we do need to talk about surrounding properties. And that's something that was kind of blown over, and she did mention it. You guys kind of talked about the setback, anyway, it's 500 feet. You you didn't really talk much about residential properties being surrounded on only 2 sides. That should have been added in. Let alone when one company puts in on 2 sides, then another company comes in and puts on another side, then another one comes in and puts it on the other side. You need to specify that that is not okay. Because we're completely surrounded. You're not just looking at affecting us in our way of life, you're looking at affecting the environment that is within that circle. Called habitat fragmentation. Look it up. You cannot surround areas of land like that with 10-foot fences.
Good evening, Gail Lambert, Richfield Township. I've got a question. In this paperwork, it talks about CBESS, and then it goes back to just BESS. Now, is there a difference, or should it all be CBESS all the way through?
A couple spots it doesn't have the C first because that would be classified like the accessory, like I had mentioned earlier, like banks and businesses.
Okay, my concern is we don't need any loopholes. If there is a part of this ordinance and it is specified the commercial, then it needs to be stated because these companies are lawyers and any loophole with the terminology, they're going to go for it. We'll lose. We've lost the setbacks and fencing, that kind of thing. So that was my concern. To have more CBESS and not just BESS. Trash and litter. I've noticed that is becoming a problem. These workers driving the roadways, how tremendous that is. So if that could be addressed some way, that they've got to do cleanup. I've got a question on page 3 on 7.3, the liability, and then point B. The word lawsuits is added. Should the word suits be taken out?
I wondered that too. I'm gonna meet with their attorney next week after we had this, and that's one thing that I wanted to clarify if they meant the same thing.
Okay, all right, thank you. Page 19. Where you're talking about specifically number 6 at the end of CSCS construction, owner, operator, developer shall replace all roads that were part of the road use of that project. What does that mean? They're going to replace the road. I think that's a very big statement. You haven't specified what they're returning it to. I went to a meeting in Stark County. It was county council meeting, and representatives were there from Mammoth, and they were specifically talking about the return of the roads in Stark County. It ended up that Mammoth, I believe, is only paying $200,000 for road repair, construction, returning the roads to where they were. $200,000. They were able to, thanks to some people in the state, able to get a $1.25 million grant. And it was to, I think, go towards solar construction that ended up being the roads. That was for Pulaski and Stark County. The provision was it had to be used by December of 2026. Well, they won't be done here in Pulaski County, probably to use that money. Stark County is getting all of that money.
I think, did your timer go off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I
Okay.
wanted to let you finish your comment there, so.
Okay, so I do have a question about.
But your time is finished now. Thank you.
And one more thing you need to think about is how we're going to.
It's still finished.
It's kind of questions on cleanup.
Thank you.
Are your roads going to be
Thank you.
turned to a 4
You can have a seat.
or a 2? So Gary, that's.
Thank you. Anyone else like to comment? Sure.
I live in Winamac. My mother owns property on 500 west and 100 north, near where Dalton and his parents live. And I tell you, I applaud you guys for going through the document. There's still work to be done. I can't stress to you the stress this has caused some business in this county. I really can't. I didn't cry. But when I go to my mother's house and I hear how much anxiety this has caused her, she's scared to be in her house. Not cool. I would just say, not cool. You know, when we are talking about setbacks for non-participating property owners, that needs to be very thoughtful and very hard on what that looks like. Because this does not just affect the dollar sign for the county. This affects your residents, and it very much has affected a lot of things. Traffic, that needs to be looked at very hard in this document, very hard, because anyone who lives in that area that drives those roads every day because they have to drive those roads every day has had more than one near miss. And it's not for any reason that we don't have stop signs. They don't care about the stop signs. They don't give a rat's butt. They have a job to do. And I get that. But if any of you have a company, you're not going to allow your company employees to act. These people just get away with that. We have no way to monitor this. We're bringing in so many extra people to our county. 12% increase in our county. Residents, 1,400 people is a 12% increase in our county. We don't have the assets to manage that, from law enforcement to fire to EMS. We can't manage that, and no one has thought of this. Let's bring more. What does it take? What does it take? I don't know. But get it right.
Lawyer in Rick Township. Ladies and gentlemen, it's very easy to set in this room and debate distance for 50, 75, or 50. It's a different story.
I have to comment that I don't know that it's been easy for us to debate those numbers. We're trying to do right by folks. So I would never classify that as easy.
And I just think that, you know, it was talked a little bit about the non-participating landowners. And that's something that is a huge concern for me. I own a sizable amount of acres in the county, but, and they're not building beside me at this point in time, but I think we have to have a concern for the 2 acre individual, the acre individual, make those setbacks right, and have a little consideration for the people in our county and the citizens that live here. And I would appreciate you. Thank you.
Dale policy, Francis, Bill. I'm not here to complain. I just want to thank each one of you for serving. And we have a broken county. We have a divided county.
And we need ordinances in place. And, you know, I guess to start with, my recommendation would be to start with the 80-some ordinances that were removed. Take a good hard look at those. They were put in place for a reason. It's to protect the citizens of Pulaski County. And I think we've got a lot of greedy landowners in this county that have taken advantage of the homeowner that has an acre or two and has enjoyed life out. Another proposal I have is these outsiders are going to come in and they're going to cover this county with solar. When you buy a farm, it has a walking index. That's a production index. And I think you guys need to take a good, hard, serious look and put a limit on the walking index. Say it's 100. The soil higher. That way, we're not taking good productive farm ground out of Pulaski County. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Casey Lowry, I live on 550, 95 or that's 550 south to be exact. I have some pictures. I would implore you to consider a 500-foot setback for non-participatory residents. We've looked at, on the left was prior to last February, and this is what we see today. Out our back window, and this is our kitchen window, this is our main living space. I know that it was also, our property was one of the properties that were checked for the 150 feet setback, and when they justify that as solar components, that means that those solar panels are 150 feet from our property line. When we're surrounded on 3 or 4 sides. If you go to the next one, that looks to the southwest, so those cows are passing, and that's in that same general area. I didn't have the same two, these are from different views and pictures, but this is the same property. And now that's the view across the southwest. Looking to the west, we always like a good sunset picture. There's corn growing in that picture on the left. On the right, you can see all the solar panels. The next picture shows to the north, directly across from our driveway. Where probably the example of this is a major driveway for the solar field that is directly across to the north of us, and it is lined up exactly. Initially, the problem with the bus. I have one driver, soon to have 2 drivers. That's an increased traffic that's coming right to our area. Another safety concern. Yeah, it's not easy to see. I didn't know I was going to get a picture of their driveway across from ours, but you can see the pavement behind the red tree there, and it goes straight across. You're welcome to come out and see it yourself. And then to the northeast, kind of looking through, so the pine tree on the left, you can see that was all open field, and now it's all filled with solar panels as well. And then the last one, I just put a picture of my Facebook post the day that they pulled in and said that my farmer's heart is breaking. Jeff and I are both 4th generation farmers, and while we don't farm land around us, it's hard to live there. When we brought our babies home and our kids are growing up, and we don't feel very welcome with 150-foot setbacks, and chances are it's not going to be undone. So we have to make some significant decisions that we have been put in place by, dare I say, the negligence of our county. So I do appreciate your time. I appreciate you looking at these things. One of the things that came up during the discussion that I did make a note of is with these solar panels so close, we're worried about if there were to be a fire, if there's a storm, leases that would come onto our property, all of those concerns that I know you've heard before. But you might also take into consideration working with our emergency management, is there gonna be some sort of notification for the families and residents of that area if there is an event close to, or Williamsbury or whatever, since there's no 50-year study on what happens when that happens, what it is. So what are you doing to protect us? So appreciate your time.
Is that on?
That one. Yep.
Okay. Brandy Larkin, Winnemac, Indiana. I have a few points. The first, I'd like to just really briefly say it's hard to cover everything. You covered a lot tonight. For us to provide our feedback in 3 minutes is really hard, so I'm going to talk fast. I tried to take my notes as I went, so please forgive me for not making eye contact. I have concerns about not having a cap on solar or any of the energy storage projects. The current Mammoth project is the largest in the United States, and we have at least 4 more in the lineup. And we're now discussing battery energy storage and data centers. I'm asking you to please look into what caps, moratoriums, and bans other counties have in place regarding energy projects. And I'm suggesting once again to gather input on the desires and priorities of current community members. It would be nice to see a focus on people over perceived profit. This significantly impacts local character, culture, and quality of life. And a pro-people and not pro-developers approach is genuinely appreciated. People have shared concerns over and over again, and these concerns should be collected and used for the development of any future energy projects. The EMS training and safety being one of them. We may not have people willing to risk their lives for the type of projects we're exploring. We may not have the population here to sustain the projects that are incoming because we have many community members considering leaving. The types of emergency concerns that are coming up in the foreseeable future with these projects is much different than anything that we manage now. And I'm disappointed that we still don't have additional documented details on what other counties have done and what their lessons have been. I've recommended personally, and I've seen others as well, for many months that we do our due diligence with research. If we don't have the bandwidth to gather this research, and I understand, I honestly do, that we have really taxed departments and that you have other commitments as well, I will again suggest a subcommittee to do this legwork. Our community deserves it. It would help in your decision-making. I heard again tonight, and we are many months into these projects. We don't know what other counties are doing. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can use their lessons learned to help us plan for the future. And I would like to close with a question, and I don't expect a response. I don't even know if you have one, but do you understand why the commissioners want an expedited timeline on both of the moratoriums on the table? I think that's something worth thinking hard about. Thank you.
I do want to make sure that we do have information from other counties. As I had stated, I just don't have it with me now. We've discussed it in other meetings. We have been collecting data. We have constantly in my office been collecting data. Again, it's just not something I had with me this evening based on the text that was in the paperwork.
Where we are at in relevance to other.
I also feel like thinking about what Carla's working on and doing and providing, that changes all the time, just like we've changed how we feel about things tonight by discussion. Other counties are constantly changing too. So that's a really difficult, like when we ask specific things of Carla that we don't have because it's come up because we have a worry or a discussion point, then she gets that information to us. And so to have every county in our surrounding with all, I think that is, it's constantly in motion. So it's a very hard thing to be able to have access to 24/7 because it changes like we do. So I just wanted to make that point. Any other comments? Of course.
I just wanted to answer Abby's question earlier when you asked about the decibels. Yes, you did. You set 50 decibels, but it's exempt during the construction and it's exempt during any mowing or maintenance of the solar project. So that's something I hope that you consider going forward because it is painful for these residents to live beside this pounding of steel into the ground, 24/7. Well, not 24/7, but 12 hours a day. It's pretty unsightly. In addition, if you could move back the setbacks, it will also help you with lowering the decibels that they have to put up with. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Carol.
Deb Rogers, 503 West 500 and 100. And I know we live on what is supposed to be a no solar road, but there's huge signs constantly going by with the semis with big panels. My concern is if it's a no solar road, are they going to repair it if they're damaged? Anyways, so that's a question. I think people need, because it is getting damaged. They roll through the stop signs. I have grandchildren out there, and it's concerning. You guys can look into that. I don't know if you guys are aware, but there's a Renewa LLC, and they're buying up land in our county, and to sell to solar companies. They're international companies, and they're coming and buying up leases for millions. This is no longer agricultural leasing. This is industrial. Solar leasing in this county was originally supposed to be from private farm owners, and now it's directly being bought out by large corporations and international companies. I don't know if you guys are aware. A lot to keep up. Things are moving fast, and I just hope you guys can find it in your heart to really, I guess, look at what we're, having to live around and really make those decisions, for the best of fellow human. Think about it. Think about what you would want your parents. Renewal LLC. Renew, I think, LLC.
Last chance. Anybody else? Okay. Anything else, fellas?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor? All right, so the next meeting is that, sorry, I should have. Is that the January? You get to go home. Oh, now this is dead too. Hi, man. We made it through once again. We got a little frustrated.
Yeah. A lot of the public comments, like,